Good evening, everyone. Calling to order the Spokane City Council meeting for November 23rd. And I will start with the roll call.
Council President Beggs.
Ruben, I couldn't hear you.
Try that.
Should I try it again?
Yeah.
Council President Beggs.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Present.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Present.
Councilmember Mumm.
Here.
Councilmember Stratton.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
All right. Well, we're going to have 3 proclamations this evening, followed by an administrative report, and then we'll get to the body of our business. And we'll start out. It is Small Business Saturday coming up, and Councilmember Mumm is going to read that proclamation.
Thank you, and I also want to welcome Julie Shepard Hall, who's the president of the Garland Business District, who is here to receive this. So maybe we can have her make some comments, if possible, when we're done. But this is the City of Spokane proclamation regarding Small Business Saturday. Whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 30.7 million small businesses in the U.S., representing 99% of all businesses with employees in the United States. And they are responsible for creating 1.5 million jobs annually. Whereas small businesses are a recognized proving ground for entrepreneurs, a vibrant source of innovation, creativity, and competition, and an essential source of employment. And amidst the global pandemic, it is more important than ever to shop local and support our small businesses. And whereas the City of Spokane supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, along with the many advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country. The City of Spokane is proud to support businesses who have adapted to the new COVID-19 guidelines in order to keep their employees and customers safe and healthy. And whereas the holiday shopping experience will look and feel differently this year, and it's starting earlier, it remains important to support our local businesses by showing patience with those places that have limited capacity and wearing face coverings to protect others, and practicing kindness to owners and employees who are relying on our community to keep their doors open for business. Now, therefore, Nadine Woodward, the mayor of the City of Spokane, on behalf of the citizens of Spokane, does hereby proclaim November 21st, November 28th, December 5th, and December 12th, 2020 as Small Business Saturdays, and urges all citizens to shop small and support our local businesses, eateries, and merchants who make our communities stronger. So this year, not just one Saturday, but 4 Saturdays. And if Julie Shepard Hall is on the line, we'd love to hear from you about all the events that people can look forward to.
I didn't know I was going to speak, so I wasn't ready for that. I've been so busy with annual enrollment. It's been a challenge this year to even think about it. But for this year on November 28th, to get people down to Garland, we are actually partnering with Hank FM to do a toy drive that will benefit the kids at West Central Community Center. And so we have that going on. We'll be distributing Garland bags for people who want to come down and pick them up and shop in our shops. And we have some drawings and things like that. So, Small Business Saturday is important to us and vital, especially this year because we have such a small amount of people that are getting out. And many of our businesses do not have online presence, which we are working on with Live Local, INW, and hopefully in the future we'll have more of them on there so that they have more of an advantage to reach the greater public. But we appreciate the city and thank you for doing 4 days for us. That's great. Is there a way to get a copy of the proclamation so we can post it? Okay.
You bet.
All right. Thank you very much. I didn't know I was going to be the only one on here. So I appreciate all of you for what you do for our city. thank you and have a nice Thanksgiving.
All right. Okay. All right, thank you. We next have a proclamation honoring our postal carriers, and I believe we have Councilmember Michael Cathcart and accepting Ken Cruz.
Yeah, thanks, Council President. City of Spokane proclamation. Whereas the U.S. Postal Service traces its start to an act of the Second Continental Congress on July 26, 1775, which established the United States Post Office and named Benjamin Franklin as the first Postmaster General. And whereas the Postal Reorganization Act of 1970, a direct result of the 1970 strike, states that the United States Postal Service shall be operated as a basic and fundamental service provided to the people by the government of the United States, authorized by the Constitution, created by an act of Congress, and supported by the people. And whereas the U.S. Postal Service is a federal government agency that has the most interactions with the citizens of Spokane on a regular basis and is relied upon for delivery of everything from ballots to holiday packages in good weather and bad, even during a pandemic. Now, therefore, I, Nadine Woodward, Mayor of the City of Spokane, on behalf of the citizens of Spokane, do hereby proclaim November 27, 2020 as Public Post Office Day.
Mr. Cruz?
Do I accept?
I am on.
All right,
Yes.
great.
Thank you. I want to thank the council members and the mayor for issuing this proclamation. It's important that we recognize that the Postal Service is a basic public service for the citizens of Spokane and the citizens of America. I think we saw in this last election that a lot of areas of the country relied on the Postal Service to help them during a pandemic get their basic right of voting taken care of. And the Postal Service is something that's been with us since the inception of the United States, and it will be with us for a long time. And I just want to make sure that people understand that while we may take the Postal Service for granted, the Postal Service is there for you in good times and bad. And I know that I've talked to a lot of people that during the pandemic, when they were actually stuck at home, it was kind of nice to see something regular like the postal carrier coming by every day with mail for them. Whereas they couldn't get out, the postal carrier was able to deliver their mail. So I appreciate this proclamation on behalf of our local and our national unions. So.
Thanks so much for coming down, Kelly. And finally, we have a proclamation for Native Heritage Month. Councilmember Karen Stratton.
You're on mute, Councilmember Stratton.
Thank you so much for telling me that. I'll start over. Whereas America is a vast land of many cultures dating back thousands of years to the original inhabitants of the land, and the history, heritage, and culture of Native Americans, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiians are part of every community across the country today. And whereas the 29 federally recognized tribes in Washington state have fortified our cities with their traditions and values, making tremendous contributions to every aspect of our life. And we are committed to preserving and protecting Native American cultures, languages, and history while ensuring prosperity and opportunity for all Native Americans. And whereas the City of Spokane is honored to work side by side with our local tribal leaders to secure stronger, safer communities and preserve their sacred heritage for future generations. Now, therefore, I, Nadine Woodward, Mayor of the City of Spokane, on behalf of the citizens of Spokane, do hereby proclaim November 2020 as Native American Heritage Month in Spokane, and encourage all citizens to join with me in recognizing the invaluable contributions Native Americans have made in our community.
All right. Thank you. I don't know. Is there anyone here to accept that? Does anyone know? Not thinking so. Thank you so much for reading that. And we will move on now. We're going to have a administrative report on the Gonzaga Haven project, North Foothills and Nevada / Hamilton. Jonathan Mallahan is here to give us an up-to-date on all the work that his organization has been doing with city staff and city council and financing and all the things that are going to create some amazing housing opportunities and community supports in that neighborhood. So Jonathan, if you're there, I see you. All right.
Good evening, Council President, members of the City Council. Thank you so much for making some time this evening. I'm pleased to share with you some updates on Gonzaga Family Haven, and bear with me here while I try to share my screen.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
All right, are you seeing it again?
We
Okay.
can, yes. Excellent.
Excellent. Well, this is Gonzaga Family Haven. It's a 74-unit affordable family housing community. It's located in the Logan neighborhood, and we're really excited to start construction on this in just a couple of weeks. It's going to be a place of peace and respite for the families who will make it their home, and I'll talk a little bit more about why that is and all the people that have come together to make this project a possibility. So just to give you an overview of what it is, though, it is a multifamily housing complex. It will have 60,000 square feet of green and park space that will be open not just to residents, but to the community as well. We have 20,000 square feet of community space in this project where we'll offer services to our residents, but also to members of the community. And we're coordinating with other stakeholders in the broader community to make sure that those services are not just appropriate, but responsive to the need and not duplicating services that are provided by other partners. We have Gonzaga University, G-Prep, Spokane Public Schools, St. Al Parish, Head Start, Northeast Community Center, and the Zone, and many others who are partnering with us to make sure that this is a community that has everything you need to move your life forward, improve your wellness, and your quality of life. This is just a map that shows the relative location of Gonzaga Haven. You can see it's there just north of Gonzaga in the Logan neighborhood, close to a couple of different great city parks and G-Prep. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to partner so well with those organizations, is that proximity. And we couldn't have located the project there without the assistance of the city. Thank you so much to the City Council and to the City Administration for all the support they provided in selling utilities-owned land to Catholic Charities for this project. We also bought several other parcels that were held by private parties, but the largest portion of the land came from the city, and we couldn't have made this possible without all that you've done to support that, including the street vacations that the City Council voted to support. So thank you for that support. This is a permanent supportive housing model, which means that we have not just housing for people in need, but also services. And so we're serving people who have extremely low incomes. 50% of the people who will live here will have experienced homelessness. And a large portion of them will also have graduated from the Rising Strong program, which is a family reunification program. It brings families together. Those families work really hard to stabilize their families, to overcome some challenges they've been experiencing. And we hope that Gonzaga Haven will be a place of peace and respite and a foundation for them to continue on the success that they've worked hard to achieve. Some of the ways that we're hoping to support residents and plan to support residents who live here include early learning through a Head Start partnership. They will actually be having on-site Head Start classrooms. We have 5 total classrooms, and I believe it'll be opening with 3 operating to expand in the future. We'll have adult education opportunities provided by Gonzaga University, child education and tutoring and peer support from G-Prep, before and after school support. We're looking at partnering with G-Prep and some others to provide that support. Catholic Charities has a robust behavioral health and counseling program. We will be providing support for residents on site through our program there. And I want to just note That also includes duly licensed counselors and substance use disorder treatment professionals, so that if someone is struggling with substance use disorder, we have the ability to support them on site and help them meet them where they're at to help them move forward in their lives. We do intend to do a lot of intentional community building. We see this as a mini community center in the Logan neighborhood, and we have lots of partners that are planning events and activities when we can all safely come together so that we're building a robust community and really integrating this project with our neighbors. We do intend to provide primary health care. There's a space that has been designated for that and or dental service. We're working out a partnership there right now. We can't announce that partnership, but that service is intended to be provided at Gonzaga Family Haven as well, in addition to many, many other opportunities for families and the community to participate in this project. I already mentioned that this has a lot of green space, but that green space is packed with things for people to do as well. We've learned that family housing is most successful when you have really positive opportunities for families and children to play and enjoy themselves. And to do that, we're doing things that other family affordable housing communities have never done before. We've got a gathering pavilion, a reflection space, a community garden, a quarter-mile uninterrupted pedestrian and bicycle trail, including a splash pad that is akin to one of the pads that the city has in public parks. So we're looking forward to offering these services to residents and the broader community. I just want to close by thanking the many people at the city who have made this possible, whether it is in the administration, Scott Simmons, Chris Becker, Allie Brass and the permitting team. They've just been amazing to work with and have pulled out all the stops as they do for any development. But this has been a pleasure to work with the city on this. Thank you very much to the council for your ongoing and repeated support of this project. We really appreciate your commitment to affordable housing and to families in Spokane who are in need of a safe, clean, and healthy place to live. So thank you for all that you've done, and to the staff who have made this project a success. We look forward to starting construction in this month, and it will open before the school year starts as our target in 2022.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Any council members have questions for Jonathan? Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, hey, Jonathan. I'm kind of curious to what extent those amenities that you talked about kind of added cost to the overall project.
Yeah, the amenities in particular did have some costs associated with them. The splash pad was about $500,000, but I will say that those amenities are being paid for through a private grant that was provided through the Bezos Foundation. So no public dollars or taxpayer subsidy was used to achieve those amenities.
And then my other question is, in terms of the folks who will be staying here, is it intended for them to be there long term, and how does that population maybe differ from Catholic Charities' other locations downtown?
Well, Catholic Charities, the majority of our housing, we have 1,400 units. The majority of our housing serves seniors and families. We do have, I think you're referring to the permanent supportive housing downtown, where you've got people who are chronically homeless. Those individuals, they have a qualifying disability, and they are extremely low income, and they've been homeless for a long period of time. The average stay in homelessness is 11 years before they land into one of our PSH buildings. So this population is a little different. These are families. They'll go through the coordinated intake system. So we'll identify the families that have the highest need first, but they come to us with different barriers. They still have experienced a lot of trauma, but that's why we have that counseling and that support on site to make sure that we help them achieve success and stabilization. So the goal is they're there over the long term, and they're able to change the arc of their family's future by accessing this foundation of support and moving forward.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jonathan? All right. Well, it's very exciting after so many years of work and imagining and vacating alleys and streets and getting properties traded, that's finally going to become a reality for all these families. That's really exciting. And I really appreciate the public amenities that won't just be for that project, but for a neighborhood that is currently quite lacking in parks and amenities and things like that. So that's great. Thank you, Jonathan. Please give your best to the rest of your organization. And let's move on to, before we get to appointments, I did just want to note for anyone in the public watching, we did add a pretty important thing to our consent agenda earlier this afternoon, and we distributed another $400,000 in CARES Act funds to nonprofits and small businesses through one of our contractors called Live Stories. So that was great that we could do that, particularly in this last week when we're up against it economically and health-wise. So I just wanted to note that for the public, we were able to do that. But let's go to appointments.
Reappointment of Ezra Eckhart to a 3-year term on the Spokane Airport Board in advance of January's term expiration from January 26, 2021 to December 31, 2023. And reappointment of Dan Zimmerer to a term of July 1, 2019 to July 10, 2022, and Dean Feldmeyer to a term of July 1, 2020 to July 1, 2023 on the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee.
All right, so these are reappointments, so we haven't interviewed them recently, and they're, bless them, they're willing to continue to serve, so that's awesome. But all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Nay?
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right. All three are reappointed. Thank you so much for your service. And now let's head to the legislative agenda, which is brief.
Do you want to first reading ordinances?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance C 35-981, expanding the number of authorized golf cart zones in Spokane, amending section 16A.63.010.020 and .030 of the Spokane Municipal Code. Ordinance C 35-982, imposing a sales and use tax for the construction, acquisition, and rehabilitation of attainable housing and for housing-related supportive services, and enacting a new chapter 7.08C of the Spokane Municipal Code. Ordinance C 35-983, relating to design standards, amending Spokane Municipal Code sections 17A.020.010, .020, .030, .130, .160, .190, and .200 of the Spokane Municipal Code. Ordinance C 35-984, relating to street development standards for the Unified Development Code, amending section 17C.200.050.010, 17C.200.050, 12.01.010, and 12.02.0202 of the Spokane Municipal Code.
Can you just speak up a little louder on your mic?
Oh, okay. Ordinance C 35-985, relating to design standards, amending Spokane Municipal Code section 17H.010.030, .050, .060, .070, .120, .140, .160, .180, .190, .200, .210, .220, .230, .240, .250, and .260 of the Spokane Municipal Code. Ordinance C 35-986, revising the design standards, Chapter 3, streets, alleys, and bikeways for the city of Spokane, and rescinding the clear zone policy number 0370-0804, included in Appendix F of the design standards. And Ordinance C 35-987, relating to parks, amending Section 12.068.040 of the Spokane Municipal Code concerning park rules and regulations. Further action is deferred on the first reading ordinances.
All right, that will be a busy week next week's meeting. Next up, if you want to read the special consideration.
S1, purchases by Fleet Operations for Police Department using Washington State Contract Number 05916 of A, 2 police K8s from Columbia Ford, Longview, Washington, $97,254.31, including tax. B, 2 police Tahoes from Bud Clary Chevrolet, Longview, Washington, $94,377.38, including tax. Deferred from November 9, 2020 agenda.
All right, we deferred this from November 9th so that we could get a report at the PIES committee. Unfortunately, they did not bring the person who had done the research, so we couldn't really ask too many questions that we wanted to ask. I did ask staff to reach out to Avista based on some of the things that were said today. One was that fast charging in less than half an hour would hurt the battery, and Randall Farley from Avista who's their expert on electric vehicles, said that is not the case. It is the case that if you let your battery go all the way to zero and then charge it up, that can be a problem. And he also confirmed that Avista remains committed to providing us expertise and consulting on how to do electric vehicles, and including helping us with installing the infrastructure for them. But we weren't able to speak with Nathan Groh, who's the fleet subject matter expert on what works and not, although he gave us a report earlier that said the electric vehicles would be cheaper over the life, even including charging infrastructure. So I'm still not feeling like we have the information. We know we have to do something by the end of the year for the grant. Councilmember Kinnear.
I move that we should defer this for one more week until we can get all the information that we need.
Second.
Okay, that's a
Can I address the timing of that, if I might, Council President?
yes.
I'm not sure a week. We're right over the holiday
Yeah.
week. Would 2 weeks be more appropriate, just to give it a little extra time? And could we also ask for safety? Because just a quick search, the cars look much safer. So I think that's important.
I will amend to 2 weeks.
Okay, December 7th?
I agree to the amendment.
Okay. So the motion is to defer until Monday, December 7th. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? All right. It's deferred, and hopefully we will get to hear from Mr. Groh before then, and that will give a little more time for the surveys to come back as well. All right. Now, let's see, I guess technically the budget hearing, which we'll probably defer again. But
H1, continuation of public hearing on 2021 proposed budget, continued from November 9, 2020 agenda.
I don't believe there's any planned staff testimony on this tonight. We're just holding it open. We have no one that's signed up for it from the public. So I'm looking for a Councilmember Cathcart. Yeah.
Yeah, Council President, I'm wondering if I think this is the second in a row that we've had no one really signed up to testify. Would we be in a position to close the hearing?
Well, I wouldn't want to do that unless I heard from administration staff. I'm just a little unclear of what the things are, but we might want to just put it out to the 7th instead of the 30th, because I don't think we're going to discuss anything on the 30th. So I'm open to a
I'll
motion.
move to defer this to the 7th.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second. Or
Any
continue it, I
discussion?
guess.
All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of continuing this to December 7th indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? All right. That is continued. And now for the highlight of the evening.
Would you like me to read all of them or one
Go,
at a time?
go ahead and why don't you do this? Why don't we have Mr. Freebot go over all of them, and then we'll read each one at a time and just kind of and let the testimony. So my plan is to have Kevin Freebot give us the overall presentation, and then we'll read them one at a time. If there's a proponent, they get a few minutes to talk about it, and there's a little bit of public testimony on a few of them. And so we'll just take that at a time. But rather than have Kevin turn on and off, I'd rather have him just go through. Oh, but I would love to hear from Councilmember Mumm first.
Yeah, I just think we should give neighborhoods equal time, or the general public. I mean, I think if the proponent gets the 3 minutes, I feel good with that. I don't think any extra time should be given, though.
Yep, I think we're fine with, I think the proponents have been told they only have a few minutes, so we'll do 3 minutes. So that's fine. We've already been briefed on this, so we know, but yeah. Okay, Mr. Freebot, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President, members of the council. Appreciate your time tonight. We'll try to get through all of these pretty quickly. I want to thank everybody involved and let you know this is the end of a year-long effort that we go through every year. And it's my pleasure to bring all of these to you for final consideration tonight. We are looking at 9 ordinances tonight for 9 applications. Let's see, sorry, one moment. All right, so very briefly, what I'm going to go over is just some program information, some overall information that applies to all 9 applications, and then I will go over the various applications themselves. At some point, when we get to a few of them, they have been managed by other staff, and I'll be handing off to those folks to talk to you about those applications as well. And then we also have with us online, we have Liam Taylor from StoreHog. He's an agent for one of the applications, and Mr. Dwight Hume is here as well for an agent for 5 of the other applications. So I'll make sure that that I keep them on the list as well. So moving on quickly, of course, this is all of the materials are available on the website, just as we do every year, and the comp plan itself is at shapingspokane.org. Just as a quick overview, this is something we do annually. We're getting ready to do next year's as well. We do take in applications in the fall. Typically, our city-sponsored proposals come in January. We have 3 of those under consideration tonight. And then a threshold determination is made in spring to set the docket for the year. We do have an agency comment period. During that time, neighborhood councils are asked to comment as well. We have a public comment period for 60 days, and during that time, Plan Commission has several substantive workshops. So you can see there's been a lot of work thus far on these. Plan Commission held their hearing already this year in September, and this is the final step. We're bringing it to you for your consideration. You have been provided the Plan Commission findings and conclusions, a staff report, including comments that we received prior to the Plan Commission hearing. We have given you a listing of related comprehensive plan policies and additional application materials. And I have sent to you any comments that we have received after the Plan Commission hearing. You should have received those by email. They're not in the staff report itself. And then also, in some cases, there was some additional material. So I apologize for the more than 1,000 pages, but this is a very comprehensive program, and there was a lot of material to go through. So I appreciate your patience with us on that. As you know, under the Spokane Municipal Code, Council has several options for each of these. One is to approve them. Another is to continue consideration. Essentially, you can continue this meeting or discussion for more if you request more information or clarification. You can remand these back to the Plan Commission if there's additional information you want from them or additional consideration. That does require that you give them a deadline. Or you may modify the proposal. However, any substantial modification, a very large change, may require that the proposal go to another hearing to allow people time to comment on that modification. And then, of course, you can also deny the applications. And this is all set forth under SMC in 17G is where our procedures and standards are. Moving on into the applications themselves. As I said, we have 9 this year. We have 6 land use plan map amendments. These are applications that seek to change the land use and the zoning of a property or properties throughout the city. You can see them here on the little red tick marks on the map as they are spread. We've got.
You're not screen sharing.
Hey, that would be a good idea. Thank you, Terrell. I didn't even see that. I'm so used to Teams where it's easier. There we go. Give me a moment. I apologize. That should work better.
All right, we can see it
now.
Yep.
Hey, all right. Now that my major snafu has occurred, I feel better. All right. Now you can see the map and all of the red tick marks that show you where all our applications are. We do have 2 in District 1. We have 4 in District 2 and none in District 3 this year. You can see they are pretty well spread, though, in those areas. We do also have some map changes and some text changes in the Bicycle Master Plan, which is an appendix to the comprehensive plan. And then a proposed text amendment to consider some topics around railroad crossing safety and changes to the arterial network map. Those 3 on the right, those are the city-sponsored applications that I'll have other staff mention. Just to give you a quick summary of all of them, there are 9. There's quite a few of them. This table I can bring up later for handy reference if you'd like it. But you can see here that for the first land use plan map, Liam Taylor's our agent. The Plan Commission recommended approval. The next 5 are shepherded by Dwight Hume of Land Use Solutions and Entitlement, with varying recommendations there. You'll see on 502 that there's a split recommendation. I'll go into more of that later. And then the final 3 are the city-sponsored applications. So again, I can bring this up at any time if it would help you. If now that you can see everything, if there are any questions before I go into the actual applications. Great. All right. So the first application, Z19499, COMP is the file number. This one's in Liberty Avenue in District 1. This is a private application. It concerns 3 parcels, well, actually 2 parcels and a part of a 3rd parcel in the Bemis neighborhood. This is just west of Market Street and north of Liberty Avenue. It's all a single owner. They also own the restaurant that's on Market Street itself. Zooming out a little, you can see on the right, the railroad alignment you see, that's the North Spokane corridor, or the future North Spokane corridor. Euclid is the major east-west, which is just 1 block to the south. Their proposal is to take their existing land use plan map designation, which is residential 4 to 10. It's our lowest residential density. And they want to amend that to make the entire block general commercial. So it would be these 2 parcels and the remaining piece of the 3rd parcel. So their property would all have the same land use, and the whole block would as well. The zoning change would be from residential single family, or RSF, again, our lowest density zoning. And that would amend it to GC 70, which is general commercial, 70-foot height limit. You have been provided all of the comments thus far on this. We did get some public comments. We got a few minor agency comments. And Plan Commission's recommendation for this proposal was to approve. Are there any questions on this one before I go on to the next one?
And if you have questions, just go ahead and volunteer. Candace, or Councilmember Mumm,
Hey,
sorry.
Kevin.
Hi.
Hi, I did notice some public comment. Were the comments that were in our packet, were those ones that were given to the Plan Commission, so they had seen those?
Yes, the ones that are attached to the staff report were the ones given to Plan Commission before their hearing. If I sent you something separately, an additional letter, Plan Commission did not see those because they came in after the hearing.
Right, thank you for that. The ones I saw were more of a kind of, they didn't really have a lot of detail other than they were opposed. Was there any that had any substantive sayings about why they opposed?
No. We received a series of cards that simply say we oppose, and there was no additional information.
As to why, okay, thank you.
Great. Not seeing any other raised hands. I'll go on to the next one. Next one is 501 COMP. This is the Nevada Decatur application, another private application. This one is located on the corner of Nevada and Decatur. You can see here in red is the 2 subject parcels that contain 2 single-family homes. They're 1 block south of Nevada and Francis. The property on Nevada and Francis is owned by the same organization, the Nevada Francis Partnership. Owns both the white stripe parcels, and the subject parcels are the red ones here. It's about half an acre. It's in Nevada Heights. Now, this is adjacent to Shiloh Hills neighborhood, and so they also were asked to speak to Shiloh Hills. In fact, the chair for Shiloh Hills provided comment on this proposal. There is a city alleyway between the subject parcels and the common ownership parcels to the north. That is not a subject of this amendment. They're not proposing to vacate that at this time. It's not being changed. It is simply happens to be there. I wanted you to know about it. Zooming out a little bit, you can see here as you go west on Francis, there is some strip type commercial on the south side. There's some mixed industrial commercial to the north. To give you some idea of where this is, this just north across Francis from the parcels is the Maverick gas station. So Nevada here, everything south of the alley line is all single family residential. And you'll see on the land use and zoning maps that some of the zoning along Francis on the south side is It's not residential, but there are residential homes that exist from before that. So the proposal is to take it from residential 4 to 10 and to bring the land use up to general commercial. So that would match their adjacent parcels that they also own. The zoning is a little different. It is, instead of general commercial, they are asking to rezone these properties to community business with a 55-foot height limit. So that is allowed. Please. Sorry, that's my son. Out, please.
I was trying to turn that on.
So that is, community business zoning is allowed within general commercial land uses. So it's appropriate. It's just slightly less dense, slightly less intensive. So once again, you've been given all of the comments on this one. We did receive a late letter that you've been supplied that is not part of the staff report. And Plan Commission's recommendation on this proposal is to deny it. They felt that the proposal was inconsistent with LU 1.8, which is our general commercial uses policy. I have that that I can bring up on screen later if you need it. But that was their recommendation at that point, was to deny. Any questions at this point?
Hey, Kevin, I'll just throw in a comment. We did get notified by the property owner today that those 2 residential units are vacant and slated for demolition. So.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, Councilmember Cathcart.
And Kevin, can you remind us all, we did 1.8 quite some time ago, probably a year ago, and Councilmember Wilkerson and Councilmember Cathcart may not know the specifics of that, what that says in terms of centers and corridors for protecting those.
Yeah, we actually amended that last year. It feels like a lot longer ago, but it was last year. About this time, I was here presenting that to you, and some of the modifications were made to clarify the language as to where you may put general commercial outside of centers and corridors. But generally, what LU 1.8 calls for general commercial uses to be in centers and corridors. Our development strategy in the comprehensive plan is to concentrate development in those areas. The language that changed was some outdated trip generation standards and some other language. So the full text of 1.8 is available in the staff report if you want to look through it, or I can bring it up later during deliberations if that would help. Great. Not seeing any other questions. I'm going to move quickly on to 502. This is the 29th and Ray. This is our first one in District 2. This one is one of 2 that City Council expanded during the docketing process, and I'll go over that in a minute. But just know that this one's in 2 parts. The original application was for 2 properties here on 29th. This is 3203 and 07 East 29th Avenue. The home you see in this picture doesn't exist. It has been removed since the aerial photograph was taken. Not a part of this proposal. This was done prior with a permit. So it concerns these 2 properties here on the northeast corner of 29th and Ray. During the docketing process, City Council and the docketing committee determined that this parcel across from them on Ray and a very slim little sliver of property to the north were in the same situation, the same kind of need, except it was a donut hole in the land use and the zoning, and I'll show you that in a second. And so it was expanded. So this is a split application. There's a private applicant for the ones to the northeast of the intersection, and then the city sponsored for the ones on the west side of Ray Street. That's these here. So all told, it's about 0.4 acres. It's in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood. Again, the home has been removed prior to their application. This parking lot remains. The residential backyard to the north of it remains. Those haven't been changed, and there's no plans to change those. They simply had a similar situation for land use and zoning. This one also has an alleyway to the north. You can't quite see it in this image. It's completely unimproved and it's impassable by vehicles. But the right-of-way does exist. It isn't being changed by this proposal at all. It's still there. Zooming out a little bit, you can see these apartment buildings and some of these office uses. You begin to see the density go up as you get closer to the Lincoln Heights Center, which is just to the west here. So this is peripheral to a center. It's not part of the center. It's not in the center core, but it is peripheral to it. Pretty much everything around it is a residential neighborhood to the south. There are some offices on the south side of 29th west of Ray. Everything to the east and the south is residential. You do see some larger uses to the north here. There's a school, there's a church, 2 churches and a school. All of those uses are allowed in residential neighborhoods in the same zoning. They're typically conditional use permits, but they are allowed in that area. Here you can see the existing land use plan map. You can see everything east of Ray is residential 4 to 10. And then there's this little weird cutout here that's the city added parcels of residential 4 to 10 completely surrounded by office. The proposal would be to amend the land use to office for these parcels. And then the zoning similarly currently is RSF for all of these. And the proposal would be to change that zoning to office with a 35-foot height limit. Again, all the comments have been provided to you. We received several on this one. And the Plan Commission recommendation was split. And by split, I mean that they agreed that, or they recommended approval for the properties west of Ray Street, the city added parcels. They recommend approval. For the original application, for the properties east of Ray Street, they felt that they wanted to recommend denial because they felt that it was inconsistent with LU 1.5, which is our policy for where office uses should be established. Is there any questions on 502 before I go on?
Kevin, I have a question in terms of how it's positioned procedurally. So if it comes to us, do we have to make an amendment to approve only one, or is it coming to us from the Planning Commission? So if we approve their recommendation, it approves the west and denies the east.
So that's an excellent question. I meant to mention it earlier, but I got distracted and I forgot to turn on the share. The way the ordinances have been written is in the affirmative as if you would approve all of them.
Okay.
If you decide that you would like to follow the recommendation of the Plan Commission and approve only the ones on the west, you would want to amend that ordinance to say that, because it currently would approve all of them.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, moving on to 503. This one is on 53rd Avenue in the Southgate neighborhood. We're looking at about 10.3 acres. This is 3 parcels. The southern area that you see bounded is the original private application of 2 parcels. City Council, you added on this additional parcel to the north during the docketing process for the same reason as in the last application. This parcel is in the same situation, benefiting the same way, and it's correcting the same issue. And so these were folded together into another combined application. All told, it's 10.3 acres. You can see currently the southern parcel contains a single family home, some agricultural style outbuildings, all accessed off of 53rd, although it does contain some access to the Palouse Highway. And then this northern parcel is a radio station and 2 radio towers. We have since spoken to the owners of this property. It's currently operated by iHeartRadio in Spokane, and they have no issue with the change that's been proposed, but they also have no plans to develop. This is for something that may happen in the future. We don't know, but they're okay with it. Those radio towers, they have no plans to take those down for now in the near future. This is again in the Southgate neighborhood. You can see to the apartments to the north, the west, and the south. This is all situated right next to the Target on the South Hill, and this is a center in our comprehensive plan. And then just to the south here is the recent addition to the city. I believe it was 2017 when this was annexed, and there's a second center, a second district center right here. And so this property, these 2 or 3 parcels sit immediately between 2 major district centers in our comprehensive plan. So the proposal here is to take the existing land use, the land use is 4 to 10 again, and to bring it up to residential 15 to 30. That's a mid-range, medium-range density for residential. Typically, we see things like 3-story walk-ups in that level of density. just to give you kind of a sample. That's what all of the apartments around it are 2 to 3 story walk-ups. This CC Core purple area, that is the existing center around the Target. The general commercial you see to the southwest, that is also part of the center to the south. It just hasn't been planned. Moving on to the zoning, you can see here it's currently zoned residential single family. The proposal is to bring it to residential multifamily. And you can see here how it's surrounded on 3 sides by more intense development. Just like the previous application, this is to bring in some stability here instead of having this kind of hole in the middle of a more dense area. We did not receive any agency or department comments on this. There have been some public comments. The neighborhood provided some comments way back in February. Again, comment cards that are in the staff report, and then I've provided you some additional letters that we received. Plan Commission looked at this one, and their recommendation was that you approve this application. Are there any questions on 503? No. Great. All right, moving on to 504. This one is on 8th Avenue. We are just west of the intersection of Government Way and Sunset Boulevard in the West Hills neighborhood. In fact, you can see it right here on the east side of this image. This is 2 parcels just north of that existing, it's like a residential care facility built into the old motel there on Sunset, all the same owner. There previously, years ago, was some mobile homes on this site, but they have since been removed. Currently, the site contains 3 multifamily homes. I think they're duplexes, and maybe one of them is a triplex, I'm not sure. But the rest of the site is largely vacant. There's some leftover graded areas and some power boxes from the mobile home park, but that's it. This is actually 7th here, and this triangle you see to the west and the easement is all for the railroad. And so they're right adjacent to railroad property. This is their entire property. To the east here, it looks like this is just one big parcel, but there's actually city right-of-way here that isn't currently paved. And so there's a street, and then there is this triangle of land to the east. Zooming out a little bit, you can see there is a residential neighborhood to the west. However, the grade change between the subject properties and this neighborhood is significant, and there's a very high railroad viaduct between these properties and the neighborhood. There's single-family homes to the north. Then, of course, there's the transportation and other facilities to the south. It's important to note that this is on the periphery of a mini center in our comprehensive plan. The staff report did provide a little graphic that showed you kind of how that shapes up. This is right on the edge of it. And you can see that here in the land use plan map. This purple color is the mini center. So the subject parcels themselves are residential 4 to 10. The proposal would be to bring them up to residential 15 to 30, again, for multifamily, very medium density residential use, adjacent to the mini center. And you can kind of see here, these little squiggly gray lines are our curb lines, but there's no curbs there, but it gives you an idea where that street lies currently. The zoning is RSF, of course, for residential 4 to 10, it would be RSF. They would like to bring it up to RMF, which is residential multifamily, which, it is next to a neighborhood retail, this NR, but as you'll recall in the comp plan or in zoning, we can't expand neighborhood retail areas, so the medium or RMF will be sufficient to what they would like to do with the property. You have seen this one a couple times before. They, under a previous owner, they applied twice, I believe, and withdrew of their own volition, not by being selected out, but by actually withdrawing themselves. This is a new owner with their own proposed ideas or their own proposal for the zoning change. So while you have seen this, I just wanted to highlight that this is not the same owner, this is not the same proposal, this is a new proposal this year. We have provided you all of the agency and department comments. We did get one comment from one neighbor that's in your staff report. And then we also received a late letter of support from Empire Health that I've provided to you that was after Plan Commission. And then, of course, Plan Commission's recommendation upon reviewing this was to approve this proposal. Any questions? Great. Whew. Okay, last one, and then I'm going to hand it off to Colin for you. 505 is the 10th Avenue application. This is on the South Hill in Cliff Cannon. We're talking about a single property of 0.16 acres. It's on the southeast corner of 10th and Jefferson. The site contains a single structure. It's clearly a single family home that has been added on to in the past. So you can see it takes up much of the property. Even the garage in the corner there is attached to the main building. Zooming out a little bit to give you an idea where we are, this is Huckleberry's to the northeast, the Ace Hardware. We had a comp plan amendment last year to clean up some of the land use around this multifamily development. This is not a center, this is neighborhood retail. And again, neighborhood retail can't expand. And it is about a block away, but that kind of gives you an idea where this is 2 blocks over from Monroe on 10th. Again, they were looking at residential 4 to 10. They would like to bring it up to residential 15 to 30. And the zoning similarly would go from RSF to RMF, or residential multifamily. And it's just for this one parcel on the corner. You can see here, there is an area of RMF to the northwest. This would be Caddy Corner, or as others say, Kitty Corner across the street from that to bring it into the same RMF zone. You've received several public comments on this one, both in opposition and in support. Those are all in your packet attached to the staff report. There's been an additional late letter that I provided to you from the property owner that you should have as well. And then Plan Commission, when considering this proposal, decided to recommend denial. They felt that the proposal was inconsistent with LU 1.4, which is our policy for higher density residential uses. Any questions on that one before I hand off to Colin for the next one? Great. Colin, if you're available, sir, I have your presentation ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, council members. As Kevin said, I'm here to provide information about proposed updates to the city's planned bicycle network. So we can go to the next slide. We have about a dozen updates recommending changes to future facility types based on feedback from neighborhoods, based on high activity locations and destinations, based on changing land uses and changing development patterns, and also road space availability and capacity, among a few other considerations. So we can go to the next slide. So first up in the category of bike lanes, we're proposing to shift 4 street segments from what are currently recommended as shared lanes up to bike lanes, including a proposal for Boone Avenue, as shown on the screen, which would connect the North Bank to the north part of the Gonzaga campus via Atlantic and Sharp Avenue. And this set of amendments also proposes bike lanes on Altamont Street from 5th Avenue down under the freeway to Main Avenue, on Flint Road out at the airport to connect the bike lanes all the way out to the airport through that loop, and on Cowley Street through the medical district by St. Luke's right there. So those are those 4 proposals. Next slide. As far as neighborhood greenways go, which are low speed, low volume, local streets, they're already good for walking and biking, and then adds upgrades to them at major street crossings, traffic calming elements, speed and volume management, and wayfinding based on neighborhood feedback. On the existing bike-friendly route on 10th and 11th Avenue that connects down to the Ben Burr Trail through Grant Park and the Perry District and Altamont Circle, we're proposing to upgrade that from a bike-friendly route to a neighborhood greenway based on comments from the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. Another one is Cook Street by the Northeast Community Center and Northeast Library in Hilliard by the Shaw Middle School campus. So this would go from Illinois up to Francis. And then another one is a shift from 17th Avenue to 18th Avenue on an existing proposed neighborhood greenway. And this would be starting at Stevens by Cataldo to take advantage of the newly installed rapid flashing beacons on Bernard, and to take advantage of the Hawk signal shown at 18th and Grand that's already there. So we'd use that, and also to connect destinations such as Cataldo School, the church, the park, and the Rockwood Market and Bakery. And so on the next slide, we have some updates to shared use paths. And these are primarily upgrades in order to connect recent or upcoming pathway improvements. An example of this would be linking the Children of the Sun Trail development to the Shaw Middle School campus via Garland, so a shared use path along Garland Avenue there, and this would connect to the Cook Street Neighborhood Greenway as well. Another example is Strong Road. It would be extending the new Strong Road pathway out to 5 Mile Road and all the new improvements that have been done to 5 Mile. And also to connect with the Vistas plans for Upriver Park, so where that street vacation is happening to make sure a shared use path gets connected through there. Another example is Palouse Highway, so connecting the south end of the Ben Burr Trail out there by Target that we talked about earlier, connecting to the pathway that extends south from Target. On the next slide, we have one new bike-friendly route that we're proposing to add, and this came out of walkability assessments and a walk audit in the Northeast Community Center neighborhood. And this would be to take advantage of the existing traffic signal by Rogers High School, which is shown in the screen, which is a pretty rare opportunity to have a traffic signal on such a low volume, low speed neighborhood street. And so this calls out Pittsburgh as just a good street to walk and bike on as it is low volume, low speed. And it sets it up to be considered for a future neighborhood greenway. We also have on the next slide a couple related amendments to the text of the bike plan as an appendix to the comprehensive plan. The first is updating the reference from cycle tracks to protected bike lanes and to define how they apply, protected bike lanes, how they apply to the future network, specifying that anything identified as a bike lane now can be considered for a protected bike lane following additional assessment and review, and also calling out that further network level planning is needed to identify a system of these types of facilities. On the next slide, the second text amendment would be to remove outdated references to maps that are no longer part of this document. And then on the final slide here related to this, next slide, there you go. Thanks. We had multiple rounds and opportunities for public comment from initial meetings with neighborhood councils in the winter and spring to an online public open house in July. We received a range of comments, both for and against, most of which were supportive of the recommended adjustments, and the Plan Commission recommendation was to approve. And so with that, that is that piece.
Nice. Great.
Thanks, Colin. Are there any questions before we go to Inga with the next part?
Kevin, Councilmember Casker, I just, my understanding, despite kind of the imagery, that there is no final decision on design for Boone. It's still, there's still options. So despite the image that was shown, I just want to stress that.
That's correct. Yeah, this is the very beginning of the stage where we talk about kind of what could be there, but there's no set design.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it. Next, we'd like to hand to Inga, and this time I'm going to remember to stop sharing so you can share, Inga. As soon as this system will tell me how to do this. I think I can just hand it off to you, Inga, 1 second here. There you go.
Okay. All right, good evening, City Council. So I'm just going to take you through the arterial street map amendments and the, so on the first one here, we have just showing the existing map TR12 and a quick summary of the reasons we're making some changes. We have some error corrections, consistency issues, a couple streets that were vacated, some that have been built, and then a couple of requests from business groups. So I'll just scroll through them real quick. We're putting barns on here now that it's been constructed as a built arterial instead of proposed. In the northeast part of town, we're looking at adding Rowan Avenue and Myrtle Street that were proposed by the Northeast PDA. Upriver Drive, we have two locations on Upriver Drive, one next to a Vista where the street was vacated so they could put the park in. And then the other one was just correcting an error where we kind of go back and forth in and out of the county and didn't have it shown correctly on the map. And same thing with Rudder Avenue, that was also just an error correction. On the south side of town, we're just doing an error correction on Post Street Bridge. It should be an urban major collector. This is what the federal classification is, and we have it shown, I think, as a minor arterial. We're showing MLK Junior Way as a built street now. We were asked to add Main Avenue and Altamont as minor collectors. 9th Avenue is an error correction. And then Thurston Avenue is a street that we thought should probably remain as a local and not be designated for a future upgrade. Out on the West Plains, starting on the upper right, Grove Road was an error correction. It was just missing because it's such a short little piece. Campus Road is now constructed, so we want to show that. Granite Avenue, and that's just recognizing that we do have a piece of that, that future parallel arterial that is already built. And then Thorpe Road down in the southwest corner is just another one where we weren't sure where the county line was, and it's just an error correction. So we did present all these to the Plan Commission, and they recommended approval of all of them. And just to note that as part of the ordinance to adopt these, it does carry a few of them into the municipal code as well, onto our existing conditions arterial map, which is in SMC 1208-040. And so the ones that would get adjusted right away, upriver by Avista, then Main and Altamont Street, outside of the Playfair complex. And then this one is just a little missing piece in the maple walnut couplet. So that's it for the arterial map amendments. Any questions on those before I go on to the railroad?
No.
Hearing none. Okay. So the railroad amendment is just a little text amendment, and basically we don't currently have any language about freight railroads in the comp plan, and we thought it would be beneficial for seeking grants and just for general planning purposes if we did have a little section in there that talks about the need to update our arterial rail crossings, because we do have a few that have the flashing lights and you know, the warning bells, but they do not have gates. And long-term, we would like to be able to get gates on these arterials. So this is basically what the amendment looks like. It's a paragraph, and then we have a table with 3 locations that we've looked at that we think would be beneficial to be upgraded. And again, the Planning Commission also recommended approval of this. So any questions on this one? Okay, then I will stop sharing and give it back to Kevin.
Great. Thanks, Inga. I appreciate it. Give me 1 second here. Annalie, can you help me? I'm trying to become presenter again, and it's not letting me. There we go. Never mind. Thank you. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. All right, so here you see a summary of all of the various proposals. Thanks for sitting through all of that. We appreciate it. And I've listed here, this is that same table at the beginning, and includes the agents. So, Council President, that is it for staff, unless you folks need more from us.
No, why don't you go ahead and leave that screen up? That would be great. And then we will just go through these one at a time. I'll have Terry Pfister read the first one and then invite Mr. Taylor to give 3 minutes. And I think he's actually the only speaker on that, but go ahead.
Okay. H2A, final reading ordinance C-35-972 relating to application file Z19-499 comp, amending map LU1 land use plan map of the city's comprehensive plan from residential 410 to general commercial for approximately 0.85 acres located at 3001, 3011, and 3027 East Liberty Avenue, parcels 35033.1304, .1305 and .1306, and amending the zoning map from residential single family to general commercial. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommends approval.
All right, and Mr. Taylor, if you're there, I think you're on our phone. If you want to hit *3 to raise your hand. All right, great. Welcome to City Council. You go ahead and introduce yourself. You've got 3 minutes. I'll give you a warning when you're close to the end.
All right. Well, first off, thank you, Council President, Council members. Thank you to the Planning Commission, and a huge thank you to Kevin. You've been a great help and provided some great guidance throughout this year-long process. Just to quickly recap this project, it is a comprehensive plan rezone from residential single family to general commercial 70 with the intent of building approximately 24 apartment units. This might seem strange that we're not asking for a multifamily residential zone change. However, in the land use chapter of the comprehensive plan, 1.4, I would argue that because of buffering limitations, the general commercial zone is more appropriate for this type of development, especially since high-density residential is allowed in the general commercial zone. And furthermore, I'd like to point out that this is a fairly diverse area. This North Market Street is somewhat of an unofficial corridor, commercial corridor. Directly to the northwest, there's light industrial zone. There's several restaurants, commercial uses on North Market Street, and even other multifamily uses to the west, east, and south of this development. So I think this very much is appropriate for the character of the neighborhood. And I am very eager to hear your thoughts, questions, comments. And again, thank you so much for your time. And again, thank you so much, Kevin, for your help and guidance. And with that, I will end my time.
All right, and why don't you just hang on the line just in case any council members have questions. Let me find out if they do. Any council members have questions for Mr. Taylor? And just go ahead and volunteer if you have one. Okay, doesn't look like that. So thank you. I would just stay on the line, Mr. Taylor, in case we're discussing it and it changes. But once we vote on it, go ahead and hit *3 so the next person can. But okay, turning that over to council members. Any comments for council members before we vote on this one? I think this one, the Planning Commission voted to approve it. So a yes vote would make the change. Not hearing or seeing anyone, so we'll have a roll call. Councilmember Mumm.
I approve.
Councilmember Stratton.
I approve.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Approve.
All right. Council President is an aye. Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Approve.
All right. That's 7-0 to approve. All right. That gets us to B. Go ahead, Ms. Pfister.
Final reading ordinance C-35-973 relating to application file Z19-501 comp amending map LU1 land use plan map of the city's comprehensive plan from residential 410 to general commercial for approximately 0.51 acres located at 6204 Nevada Street and 1015 East Decatur Avenue, parcels 36,321.0209 and .0210, and amending the zoning map from residential single family to community business. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommends denial.
All right, and on this one, we do have one community member who wants to testify after Mr. Hume, and that is Chris Bornhoft. So, Mr. Bornhoft, you can kind of get ready, but Dwight Hume, I believe, is on our screen. Mr. Hume, you could have 3 minutes to make your case for this particular change.
Thank you. This is Dwight Hume. I would urge the council to consider the fact that Nevada Street is every bit as busy as Francis. The conclusion in the staff report is completely a focus on Francis and not intruding into the neighborhood. That was the Planning Commission's decision. And yet, with the same amount of traffic within a few hundred cars per day, it is also to be treated as a major arterial impact to the property. That impact includes the elimination of the housing that is currently on site, and enables us to expand the properties in a more safe site plan, which gets the building off of the corner. The ever continued expansion of Francis and Nevada has brought the street and improvements right up against the building, and it endangers the occupants and users of the building. We simply want to move back away from that corner, and the best way to do it is to have an expansion down to Decatur. I would ask the council to consider in your mind's eye Wellesley and Nevada, Mission and Hamilton, Garland and Nevada. As you know, there's been commercial use of those corners, those intersections for years, and no impact whatsoever to the remainder of the residential block to the east. And that's the way this would be here. More importantly, the use of the block is a checkerboard of vacant lots and torn down houses. So it's not like we're impacting an existing residential area. So I would hope that the council would consider Nevada equal to Francis and enable us to get off of that corner, that dangerous corner with our building. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hume. Mr. Bornhoff, if you want to hit *3. All right, Mr. Bornhoff, you'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead and introduce yourself and share your thoughts with us.
Thank you. This is Chris Bornhoft. I'm a developer and real estate person here in Spokane. I have been hired by the Francis Nevada Partnership to help them with development on this corner. And I just want to point out a few things. If your packet is in front of you, our property is from page 160 to 221. I realize it's a lot to digest when you have a bunch of others, but we started this process in October of 2018. We were asked to table it for 1 year, which we agreed to do. And we restarted the process again in October of 2019, and here we are in November of 2020, and we're 2 years into this process. This proposal, if you'll see in your report, it complies with the Growth Management Act. It complies with SEPA. It is in a cities and corridors designated area. It complies with the comp plan rules and regulations. It passed public review with flying colors. It passed workshop review with flying colors. The average daily trips along Nevada in front of the house that sits facing Nevada is 21,752 cars per day. That's almost 22,000 cars per day passing in front of a single family house. This is the second busiest intersection on the north side along Francis, only behind Division. The neighborhood councils all support the change. That's Nevada Heights, Whitman, and Shiloh Hills. Not a single neighbor objected to this proposal. Development Services has no objections to this change, and city staff has no objections to this change. In fact, in their report, they state that the map amendment, and I quote, or site is suitable for proposed designation, and quote, there exists no physical features of the site or its surroundings that would preclude commercial development on the site. The site is adequately serviced by utilities, major arterial street, bus service at the intersection of Francis and Nevada, and the site is generally level and devoid of critical areas. I'm not sure exactly what happened with the Planning Commission and who poisoned the well, but I would recommend that the City Council, if this does not get approved tonight, re-examine it and pull it out and try to understand why it is that all of these other people seem to have no problem with this proposal, and yet the Planning Commission chose to deny it. As Mr. Cathcart mentioned earlier, both of the houses that are on the proposed lots are now vacant. Those tenants moved out voluntarily. The houses require significant repairs, so significant that they can't be considered and can't be done. So those houses will be removed because it's not an appropriate location for single-family residences. So I hope you will reconsider this and go against the Planning Commission's recommendation and move this forward for approval. Thanks for my time.
Thank you for sharing with us, Mr. Bornhoff. All right. Any questions or comments from City Council members? Okay.
Council President?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Mumm.
Yeah, can I clarify something with Mr. Frybot?
Yes.
Hey, Kevin, we just heard testimony that this was in the center or corridor. Can you confirm that or?
No, Francis is not a designated corridor in this location. The nearest center is the Holy Family Employment Center, I believe. So this is not in a center.
And my recollection is this was surrounded by housing on multiple sides, single-family housing.
Yeah, everything, there's that alleyway to the north of this property. Everything south of it for several blocks is single-family residential. I can bring up a map if you'd like to see.
Well, maybe that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, if you're bringing up a map, a satellite showing all the vacancies in the area would be helpful.
I wish I had that. I can show you the aerial itself does show you some of the empty land. It's hard to see on this level of detail, though. If I zoom out here, you can see this alleyway that's basically splitting the block east to west, and everything south of it is designated single-family residential, and you can see a preponderance of single-family homes. There is some vacant property east of it. There's a large vacant property immediately east of it, and there's some along Francis that are vacant. There is southeast of there is a vacant parcel, but it's hard to tell when I went by because there's a house on it. On part of it, it's hard to tell if it's all one property that's just being renovated or not. So.
So this is Karen. Can I ask a quick question or confirm?
Yep. Yep. And then I see you, Mr. Cathcart.
Did I understand this correctly that all the neighborhood councils in that area approve it? I mean, we didn't have any opposition?
As you can see in the staff report, we did hear from the Shiloh Hills neighborhood chair. I don't believe they were meeting at the time, but the neighborhood chair did comment on the proposal with some site access questions. But I don't believe we've received any statement from the councils that they voted to approve, to have no issue, or voted to support. In fact, only one of the applications under consideration did we receive a formal letter from a council that voted to say something. And this is not that one.
Thanks.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Kevin, could you clarify the comment that was made about them being asked to delay a year? Do you know about the circumstances around that and kind of what the background is?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So as part of the docketing process earlier the year, when we got together with the committee and then with council to talk about what applications would be considered that year, The first year they came in, we also had a proposal to look at LU 1.8, general commercial uses. Because that policy was going to be modified that year, council asked some applications to wait. They asked them to wait 1 year to resubmit if they desired after the changes to LU 1.8 were complete. This was one of those applications. This is I believe, the only one who desired to come back after the LU 1.8 change to be proposed. So that's why they were asked for first year.
So Kevin, this is Betsy here.
Hi.
So my options on this, I could modify, remand. I had 4 choices because I'm trying to figure out if we gave this the opportunity to go back to those neighborhood councils to actually get positive affirmation of their support, would that make a difference to council whether they approve or not approve this?
You could, that's a good question. And, you could ask that they go back and ask for that permission. We don't require neighborhood council approval in order to consider a proposal. It isn't a requirement. It isn't one of the decision criteria under the municipal code. You could also, if you wanted to remand this to Plan Commission and ask that they interact with the neighborhood council, but I'm not sure what you would need from that exactly.
Well, I guess my challenge is if 2 of the neighborhoods around there are supporting this change, why would we stand in the way of neighborhood development? That's just my question. So,
Hey, Betsy. We've done these for probably 20 years. Some neighborhoods really get involved in these, and others really don't. And they don't, like Kevin said, there's usually, sometimes they'll be supportive and sometimes they'll oppose it. So it is kind of something that I've seen where it's intermittent, and we kind of have to look at what's consistent, or at least I look at it this way, what's consistent with our policies and our comp plan, because how neighborhoods have engaged in the past is actually working on their specific neighborhood plan and asking us to change the policy. That's kind of where they land in general, if that's helpful.
Thank you.
I'm going to, Mr. Bornhoff, I think, is still available. And since there's a little bit of a question on the neighborhood's councils and what level of support or not, I'm just going to ask him to address that. Mr. Bornhoff, if you're there, do you want to just talk about what you meant by that?
Yes, the nice lady told me that I was unmuted, so I'd be happy to.
Yes.
The neighborhood councils in your report did approve it, the 2 neighborhoods that are on either side of this. The neighborhood that this actually sits in did not formally comment, but they did talk with Dwight Hume, and they have no problem with it. So all 3 neighborhoods are in favor, as much as they can be, of this proposal.
When you say,
I might also add, I mean, just because.
Can I just ask a question? When you say the other 2 adjacent neighborhoods approved it, when you say that, what do you mean? Did they take a vote, or did you go to the meeting and people there seemed positive? We're just trying to understand what level of formality.
It's in your packet.
Okay.
Their comments were in your packet.
Okay.
I think the only issue that one of the neighborhoods had was that they wanted to maintain the alleyway access, which our proposal is not asking to have that vacated. So we don't have any problem with maintaining that access.
Okay.
If I might, I respond to just a couple of other things if I have a minute.
Sure.
Just because we've done something for 20 years doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way to do it. And I think we need to look at every single proposal, not with the 20 years in the past, but we need to look 20 years into the future. If you were sitting in a Development 101 class today, you would not be told to put a single family house on an arterial street that has 22,000 cars per day going by it. In development, we look at corners, hard signalized corners. And when we see concrete going in all four directions, we know that the city planners are saying that that intersection is going to be there as a very heavily trafficked intersection for years to come. All you have to do is look at an aerial photo, and you can see that that concrete extends all the way down Nevada, right in front of these lots that we're asking to have rezoned to commercial. This is never going to be a single-family neighborhood again. This has gone commercial. We're asking that these two lots go with what the traffic and the public has already said they want at this area, and we want to be able to offer that to them. We need more space to be able to do that, put our building off of the corner, set it back further in the lot, and at least have a transitional zone between commercial and residential so that we could have additional parking. We're not even necessarily asking to build a building there.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bornhoff. And I think Councilmember Stratton go ahead.
I think if I can do this, I'd like to ask, this is in District 1, if the council members representing District 1 can tell me their thoughts or if they think this is a positive for the district. I don't know.
Yeah, this is Councilman Guthrie. I can speak to it. I think it's really important, frankly. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, for the safety. I mean, that building I know has been hit a couple of times. And this gives them an opportunity to redevelop that building, set it back in the site plan off of the street, do it in a much safer way. And I think the other part of it that maybe we're not thinking about is that part of Northeast Spokane, I think, is ripe for a lot of reinvestment. And just to the east of this parcel is 1,200 feet of very underutilized or not utilized at all land that would be ripe for multifamily, commercial, et cetera, but it's sitting there. And redevelopment and growth begets more redevelopment and more growth. And to see this corner improve, I think we're going to start to see that whole area start to improve. And so to me, it's really, really important that we actually care about this part of town enough to allow some changes to take place so that we can see some really necessary.
Thank you.
Other council members? Oh, sorry. Other council members? Any comments, questions? Okay, then we'll have a roll call. Councilmember Mumm.
Hi, thanks. Before I make my vote, I just want to say I am supporting the Plan Commission in this, and they had a thorough vetting of all of the details. So what we're going into tonight is not as in-depth as what they went into. And I support a neighborhood planning process for something like this. And to state that this is never going to be a single-family neighborhood, I would say that the folks that live across the street from this might have a different idea because they've invested in that as a single-family neighborhood. So I respect the process, so I will vote to deny. Sorry.
Councilmember Stratton.
I'm going to vote to approve.
Councilmember Kinnear.
I too support the Plan Commission process. And as a former liaison to the Plan Commission, I know that they don't take these sorts of decisions lightly. There's some very good and well-intentioned people on the Plan Commission. I don't appreciate developers maligning the Plan Commission and their decision. I will vote to deny.
I am cognizant of the land to the east that we could see, and Councilmember Cathcart, that it seems ripe for some redevelopment, but I would prefer, as Councilmember Mumm says, that the neighborhoods do a planning process for that entire section all at once rather than doing it at one off. So I'm going to vote with the Planning Commission at this time on this and vote no. Councilmember Burke.
Nay.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Approved.
Okay, so this fails in a close vote, 4-3. Thanks for everyone's participation on it. Let's go to the next one.
H2C, final reading ordinance C-35974 relating to application file Z19-502 comp amending map LU1, land use plan map of the city's comprehensive plan from residential 410 to office for approximately 0.61 acres located at 3207 and 3203 East 29th Avenue and 2820 and 2826 South Ray Street. Parcels 35,273.0219, 0.0220, 0.0305, and 0.0306, and amending the zoning map from residential single family to office. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommends approval of parcels 35,273.0305 and 0.0306, and denial of parcels 35,273.0219 and 0.0220.
Okay, and we have on this one, we're going to have a second. We're going to have one community speaker, but before that speaker, Mr. Hume, if you would like to make your case on this one. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. This is a similar issue to what you just went through, in my opinion. You have a recommendation from the Planning Commission not to jump across Ray Street and allow non-residential use. And yet, if you are at all familiar with that frontage on the east side of Ray, as staff referred to the various land uses that are permitted in the residential zone, you have an entire block from 27th to 26th as a church, an entire block frontage from 26th to 25th as a church, an entire block beyond that from 25th to 24th is a daycare. And then you jump down to the fire station at 18th and then into retail at 17th. And you ask yourself, what happened to the residential neighborhood behind those? Nothing. It's been that way for years. One comment from the neighborhood that I experienced and heard very well was that we shouldn't have taken the house off of this site. We need more residential, which then led to the comment, why not you put apartments on the site? Our answer was office zoning allows apartments. And yet, for all of the time that we spent trying to get to this hearing tonight, the years has gone by and we've had numerous inquiries hoping to have this zoned office. So there's a market demand despite your ideological language in the comp plan. And I think common sense should prevail here. Diagonally across the street, one of the users that would love to have this site has a dental office and would like to have parking for their employees on this. They have no more room, and yet they have more business. We can't do that in your zoning code without a full zone change. We used to be able to do it by special permit in a residential zone. Can't be done. We spend a year, 15 months trying to get a zone that will allow us to have a parking lot. This is not something that is going to adversely affect the rest of the neighborhood by causing more office zoning down 29th. It's not, other than having exposure to Ray at that intersection, there isn't any other need to have non-residential. Nonetheless, one of your options tonight is to modify the recommendation or reverse it. Ideally, you'd reverse it and allow office. But if not, I would like you to contemplate, consider, and make a recommendation for RMF zoning for apartments. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hume. And so now we have one public commenter, Carol Tomsick, if you want to hit *3. So Carol, if you want to introduce yourself, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Oh, my name's Carol Tomsick. I live in the neighborhood. So I am commenting in support of the denial of the proposed comp plan amendment to change the northeast corner of 29th and Ray from residential to office zoning. The Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council supported the residents' opposition to the zoning changes. The northeast side of Ray Street is a historically designated residential buffer. The residents have successfully fought against 2 other attempts to rezone the property to office. A zoning change will set a precedent and retail office will creep into the historically designated buffer. I have lived 2 blocks from the site for 21 years. It is a residential neighborhood. I also live a block away from June Pierce. June spearheaded all 3 oppositions. She has lived in the neighborhood most of her 96 years. Her dedication and ability to continuously rally our neighbors to fight against office zoning in our residential neighborhood is quite impressive. City staff and the Planning Commission have denied the proposed zoning change because it goes against the city's comprehensive plan. Ray Street is a principal arterial, and office zoning should not cross an arterial into a residential neighborhood. And per the city's municipal code, an office zoning on small sites in or near residential areas is intended to have few detrimental impacts on the neighborhood. The proposed office zoning will divert traffic into the neighborhood due to the concrete barriers on Ray Street, and a parking lot would do the same. I want to thank the City Council for protecting our neighborhood by voting against the proposed comp plan zoning change on 29th and Ray. Thank you.
Carol, before you go, are you still there?
Okay.
I just, you heard
Yes, I am.
You heard Mr. Hume say that one option, if it wasn't going to be office, was going to be residential multifamily or apartments. Since you're the neighborhood chair there, I'm wondering if you have any comments about that idea.
I would like to say that I agree with everyone. The neighborhood council needs to bring this towards the residents and talk about it before it can be approved. And I'm sure the neighbors would not want a apartment complex unless we know that the traffic's going to be fine, what's going to be there, and have more information. So I would say no at this point.
Okay. Thanks for indulging me on that. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's the end of public comment. Comments or questions from council members? Councilmember Mumm.
Hey, yeah, so this residential multifamily is interesting. I'm wondering if we need to check with Kevin to see how long can we go before we make a final decision? How much time could we extend this to keep it alive, to give the neighborhood a chance to get feedback and look at this potential transition option for multifamily?
We have one opportunity a year to amend our comprehensive plan. So theoretically, if we pass this, if this continued on past December 31st or your last meeting of the year, it could push us to next year's consideration.
But we could pull it out of the basket, right? So if we wanted to pull it out of the basket and defer the final decision until our last meeting, which is December 14th, we could do that.
Yeah, that is one of your options.
Okay, thanks.
Other council members? All right, so it seems like there's maybe three or four potential options on the table. One is just to vote up or down as listed, which includes both parcels. One is to put it off until December 14th. The other is to amend so that we keep one and don't keep the other. But that would take a motion. Councilmember
President?
Mumm, yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the office zone for the parking lot, and I might need the map of, is that east of Ray?
West of Ray.
That would be west of Ray.
So the parking lot, can you show me the map so I make sure I have this right?
Yes, 1 second.
And that was what the Plan Commission had asked for?
Sorry, took me a second. So the Plan Commission recommendation would be to approve the west side of Ray, those changes, and deny the east.
Okay, so let's take it a piece at a time. I'll move to approve that piece that the Plan Commission recommended.
I'll second that.
All right, so I think the way we have to do this is it's one ordinance and we have to change the language of the ordinance. So I don't know if you can do it quite the way you're wanting to do it.
Okay, so that supports, so that's already in the ordinance.
Yeah, it's in the ordinance, but the other ones are. So and I'll take any advice from staff or Mr. McClatchy, but I think if you want to still think about the other parcel, residential multifamily, you would want to defer the entire ordinance until December 14th and then tease it apart at that point, as opposed to trying to do it now and then deferring part of it till then. That's my sense.
Okay, well, I'll do that then. I'll move to defer it until December 14th for the opportunity for feedback on the possibility of it being a multifamily.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion about the motion to defer until December 14th?
Council President, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Just for staff's benefit, can Councilmember Mum speak to what she would need from, what clarification, what kind of information she would like before that meeting?
Well, I think that, I should ask this question. Did the request potentially for multifamily come up at the Plan Commission level? Yeah. So we probably need to remand this back to the Plan Commission. Are they going to meet again?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe so, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Two more maybe. So I think we should get feedback from the Plan Commission and from the Neighborhood Council.
They will meet December 9th.
Okay.
So the direction to staff would be to request the Neighborhood Council provide input and then remand back to Plan Commission for December 9th.
And whatever
meeting
else,
on December 9th.
Whatever other council members want to.
Thanks. I just want to make sure I know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. I would just comment, I'm not sure when Lincoln Heights is meeting. They don't meet every month, but I'm sure that they could gather some feedback for staff. So that's all right. That's all right. Okay. Any other comments or questions from council members before we vote on the motion to defer? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of deferring this ordinance until December 14th indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right. Well, we'll defer this one until December 14th. Madam Clerk.
H2D, final reading ordinance C-35-975 relating to application file Z19-503 comp amending map LU1 land use plan map of the city's comprehensive plan from residential 410 to residential 1530 for approximately 10.3 acres located at 3227 East 53rd Avenue and 5106 South Palouse Highway, parcels 34032.9044, .9093.9094, and amending the zoning map from residential single family to residential multifamily. By a vote of 8-1, the Plan Commission recommends approval.
All right. There's nobody from the public that's requested comment on that, but Mr. Hume, you have up to 3 minutes to give us your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Beggs. I will concur with the Planning Commission's action to approve this. As staff explained to you and showed you in the aerial photos, it's completely surrounded by apartments. It's not suitable for single-family development. I have no other.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Council commentary, and again, let's see, Councilmember Kinnear. Or not? Yes. Now you're mute. Okay.
Okay. Goodness. Kevin, I see your name there. Just a correction here. This parcel is surrounded on 3 sides by apartments, not surrounded, just to be clear. Okay.
That is correct. It is on 3, there's apartments on 3 sides.
Okay. And so I just have a few things to say about this. On the surface, it seems like a reasonable change to the comp plan. However, it's based on the false premise that South Regal Street is a legitimate neighborhood center. There was a proposal to designate South Regal as a neighborhood center in 2009 or 2010, and it was opposed by the Southgate Neighborhood Council for good reason. It violated the comp plan. The council at the time approved a developer agreement so that a retail development could go forward. Unfortunately, the developer did not honor the agreement, requiring that they adhere to centers and corridors design guidelines. So here we are 10 years later, continuing to develop along South Regal without thought to long-term impacts on this area of the city. And this particular request did not include a traffic study and continues to build on the supposition that South Regal is a designated corridor and therefore should accommodate density. We can't undo what has been done, but we can require further infrastructure to mitigate congestion before any additional development is approved. Now, that's not to say that forever and ever, no more development, but we have to look at what is happening up in that area and the congestion that is being generated and mitigate that before we can move forward. So that's my little treatise.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Kinnear. Any other?
Councilmember Beck?
Yes. Councilmember Wilkerson?
Councilmember Wilkerson here.
Yes. Go ahead.
I do have to concur with Councilmember Kinnear. For folks who don't drive that strip frequently, I happen to, from Moran Prairie Elementary down to Target and McDonald's. The traffic is sometimes backed up for a mile or so. So I would really need to hear something about traffic studies, traffic mitigations, infrastructure, really how that's going to impact Moran Prairie. The school is bursting at the seams already. And so I just have a lot more questions, and I agree. I'm not saying for never, 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 but for right now, it feels like these plans could be teased out a little bit more before we go forward.
Councilmember Mumm.
My intent was to support the Plan Commission all the way through on this. They do a lot of hard work. In this case, though, I'm reminded of what we went through with the Indian Trail Apartment. Kind of some similarities here, and especially with the Southgate neighborhood that's been so involved with neighborhood planning. I'm willing to support my council members and put a pause on this for now and say, let's not go yet. I'm not saying that something won't go in there. I want to give the chance to do proper planning, because there was a lack of proper planning is the reason the mess is there. And I don't want to have, two wrongs don't make a right. So I'm willing to support you on this and put a pause on it.
Other council members? All right. I will just...
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah. We need housing. And we've got, potential for hundreds of units of housing along 195 that may never come to fruition. We may buy some of that land. Some of it just may not be able to get developed. And out here in some other areas where we've got opportunities for multifamily, the answer seems to be no. And so where is this growth that's coming here? You don't have an option in this growth that's coming here. So where are we going to put it if we continue to deny opportunities for more housing to be built in our community? So I'm going to support this. Obviously, yes, the transportation corridor there is really important to look at. Regal should be 4 lanes. It should be a much better environment up there, but we need housing. So I'm definitely not going to say no to this.
Other council comments?
President?
Yes, Councilmember Stratton.
Karen? Councilmember Kinnear or Councilmember Wilkerson, can you tell me about neighborhood council up there and where they're at with this?
They do not support this.
Okay. Thanks.
Other council?
And Councilmember Cack, I'm sorry,
No,
Councilmember.
go ahead, Councilmember Wilkerson.
I was just going to respond to Councilmember Cathcart. Absolutely, we need housing. But all the things you described about the transportation, all that piece going in, my observation has been that's always promised. It hasn't been delivered. So if it's that important to the developers, let's get out ahead of that. And I just said not for never, because I think there will be growth up there, obviously. But right now, at this point in time, I could not support that without some more information going forward. How are they going to help mitigate those things?
Other council comments? I will just say that the last 10 or 12 years, the development that has been put up there was probably not appropriate for the infrastructure. We desperately need housing, but we need to put it closer to the downtown core and redevelop neighborhoods and put density in there so that we don't have to drive people miles and miles over roads that don't have capacity and schools that are bursting at the seams. I know you can look at that land and it says, oh, it's open land, we should do it, but it has such a cost to the entire community from there to the downtown because of the transportation. And I just think we're going to have to reorient how we build denser housing and multifamily closer to the core. And each apartment complex that's gone up there has hurt the schools, has made traffic impossible, and quality of life just reduced it for all these people. And so in some ways, it's the last 10 acres, and you could say, how bad can it be? But I think we do have to put a pause on it and recalibrate and change the zoning closer to the downtown core and get people living closer to where they work and closer to good transit and the infrastructure that's already there. So I'm going to be a no on it as well. Any other comments before we take a roll call? All right. We'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Mumm. All right. And just 1 second. I just have to catch up here. Okay. Councilmember Stratton.
Deny.
Okay. Councilmember Kinnear.
Deny.
Council President's a no. Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Deny.
Okay. All right, so that fails 5-2. And if we could hear the next one, Madam Clerk.
H2E, final reading ordinance C-35-976 relating to application file Z19-504 comp, amending map LU1 land use plan map of the city's comprehensive plan from residential 410 to residential 1530 for approximately 2.2 acres located at 3004 West 8th Avenue, parcels 25234.0902 and .6501. And amending the zoning map from residential single-family to residential multifamily. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommends approval.
Okay, and let's see. Let me make sure. Just a second. Okay, we don't have any public comment on this. Mr. Hume, you may address us for 3 minutes.
Thank you. As staff gave you a good understanding of what this is about. It's a third effort to do the same project. Fortunately, Empire Health purchased the property under the conditions that they fulfill the long-range plan that the former owner had, who passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. The former owner was not financially able to move forward with this, and now there's every expectation to do so. The West Hills Neighborhood Council is in favor, and we're simply waiting now to go forward with the project. As staff indicated to you, we're sitting in a pocket bounded by the railroad overpass on the west, and some vacant land of theirs immediately adjoining us. Northwest or Government Way is on our boundary. And as we expect that we will have to do street improvements of 7th Avenue and Audubon, which is a north-south dirt road that's in there right now. So adequate roads and utilities are there. And ultimately, this will provide future housing for the needs of the present occupants in the old motel. Once they can move over, then the motel will be removed and additional housing will be provided, but that's already in a commercial zone and allows it. So we have the support. We have the ability to get the project done finally. So we're in favor of the Planning Commission's action to approve it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hume. And any council commentary? And I can only see some of your boxes, so if anyone has, just volunteer. But doesn't sound like there is any, so let's just go to a roll call. Councilmember Mumm.
I support the Plan Commission. Approve. Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Stratton.
Approve.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Approve.
Council President, approve. Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Ms. Pfister, if you want to read matter F.
H2F, final reading ordinance C 35977 relating to application file Z19505 comp, amending map LU1 land use plan map of the city's comprehensive plan from residential 410 to residential 1530 for approximately 0.16 acres located at 1117 West 10th Avenue, parcel 35193.1405, and amending the zoning map from residential single family to residential multifamily by a vote of 7-0 and 1 abstention. The Plan Commission recommends denial.
We have two community members, Milt Rowland and Seth Knutson. So if you two could stand by for a few moments. Mr. Hume, you have up to 3 minutes to comment on this one.
Thank you. This particular project is an attempt to restore the rights that were formerly there going clear back into the mid-50s when all of this area was zoned multifamily and allowed nursing homes. In the mid-50s, the two houses that were on separate lots were joined together and historically served as a nursing home until, I don't recall now exactly the years. The current owner picked up the property after it lost its non-conforming rights and simply want to restore those rights. Unfortunately, we cannot utilize the building to its full capacity, which is 16 residents, unless we have the multifamily zone. I know there's a lot of opposition to allowing multifamily zoning for the sake of multifamily apartments, and we're quite willing to enter into a development agreement to limit it to simply using it for senior housing. And that would be what I leave on the table for you to consider so that you don't have additional apartments. A lot of complaints from the neighborhood as to the appearance of the property, and we understand that. We want to make improvements to that, but not without the assurance that we can fully use the existing facility for senior housing. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Hume. Any council commentary or questions? Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting my two public commenters, so my apologies. Mr. Rowland, go ahead and hit *3 if you haven't already. All right, welcome to City Council, Mr. Rowland. I know you're quite familiar with us. It's great to have you here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and you've got up to 3 minutes. We're not hearing you, in case you're speaking.
I was speaking.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
My name is Milt Rowland.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Is it coming through okay?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Milt Rowland, and I represent the Landrys who live essentially right next to the subject property. I've also spoken with a lot of neighbors, 35 of whom signed a petition saying, please don't allow this. This is a tiny comp plan amendment. Back in the day, we might have been criticizing this as spot zoning, but where we're at now is really what staff said, and staff's report is very thorough, and it basically says that the whole point of this section of the comp plan, LU 1.4, is to keep multifamily creep to those places that are on or adjacent to area centers, which this is admittedly not. The neighbors are worried about historic buildings in the neighborhood. Several people, including one of my clients, spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to restore the property, relying on the fact that it wasn't going to have some big nursing home right across the alley. Mr. Hume doesn't necessarily remember how long it's been since it was a nursing home there, but my clients do. It's been a quarter century. Now, one of the items in your packet attached to the staff report is a letter from Mr. Landry, which points out that the first time the developer came around to speak to him, he used the phrase halfway house, and Mr. Landry pretty viscerally reacted to that. And subsequently, all we've been hearing about is a nursing home that doesn't pencil out. We very much encourage the council to go with the Plan Commission's recommendation and disapprove this application. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Rowland. If you want to hit *3, which will lower your hand, and then Seth Knudsen, if you would like to hit *3 and raise your hand. All right, Mr. Knudsen, go ahead and introduce yourself. You have up to 3 minutes.
Hello. Thank you, City Council, for your service and your time. I feel that I'm a resident of 5 Mile and I own the property at 10th and Jefferson. I grew up pretty much in a retirement home, and that is my family business. That has always been my intentions. I feel that Mr. Landry has been spreading false information about a halfway house to stoke fears of this property. That has never been my intention. I've never expressed that as my intentions. I believe that this property is an opportunity for more housing, senior housing, which is very much needed, close to the downtown. And like Mr. Hume pointed out, this facility previously did have a multifamily zoning. Kevin Privot suggested that it appears as a single-family home. That being said, it does have a fire sprinkler system, and it has the fire doors. It has a nurse call system. It has the functioning bones of a care facility, and I am willing to do a developer's agreement to ensure that it's not going to be a halfway house now or ever in the future. I am very concerned about being a small business that will contribute to the neighborhood and be a benefit for jobs and employment, and would like the opportunity to be able to beautify the property with a large, substantial investment. I disagree with the comment that it does not pencil out, and I really appreciate your time and would encourage your consideration to give me the opportunity to succeed in the neighborhood.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Knudsen. And that brings us to council commentary or questions. Councilmember Stratton.
I just have a quick question. So I've heard different terms. So can somebody clarify, is this for a nursing home, or is it for like an independent senior living apartments?
Is Seth still on the line by any chance? We'll ask Seth.
Sorry.
Yeah. Did you hear the question?
Yes, sir, I did. It is going to be an assisted living, which is one level of care below a nursing home, but actually not an independent facility. So there would be 24-hour care and nurse delegation on the property.
Okay. Thank you, Seth. Okay. Other council questions, comments?
My question to the owner is, are you looking at your capacity being 16? Or if you have double occupancy, would that put you at 32?
If you're still there, Seth?
Yep.
Did you hear that question?
Yep. I did. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. No, currently there are 10 rooms, and to fully utilize the 6 bedrooms that could be used for double occupancy, that's where it puts the state limitations of 16 residents. Typically, assisted livings run at about 80% of capacity, just due to attrition, and just very rarely are they at 100%. So that would put me more like an operating of 13, roughly, off the top of my head, as opposed to the 10 that a conditional use permit would permit me in the single-family zoning. I would not be able to utilize any of the rooms for a double occupancy. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm the newest council member. So when I came on, I think I was at the very tail end of this last season. And I thought the challenge was not just the zoning for multifamily use. I thought there was lots of parking issues surrounding the capability of staff to provide the care at that location, but that might be a whole different conversation. So that was where I left off at. I will say that housing is needed for seniors. There is a huge demand. It is always about location.
Other council member comments? I'll speak in favor of it, even though I, like Councilmember Munn, generally go with the Planning Commission. This is across the street from multifamily housing, and since to me it was used that way, albeit a few years ago, and I just think that the intended use is not going to be as disruptive, and it's a neighborhood that was used to being used that way. The building's already that way, and given the shortage of senior housing, it seems compelling to me, and that's why people bring requests for changes. So that's just me. Any other council members want to comment? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Mumm.
Yeah, I'll just make my comments before I vote. I agree with Milt Rowland, who used to be an attorney for the city. This appears to be spot zoning, and I don't care for that. I think I understand the plight, but we really are supposed to look at the long-term commitment to this property and what it will be, not necessarily the current use. So I'll support the Plan Commission to deny.
Okay. Councilmember Stratton.
Deny.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Deny.
Council President is approve. Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Deny.
Okay. It fails 4-3. That brings us to the next matter. Ms. Pfister.
Excuse me. H2G, final reading ordinance C-35978 relating to proposal file Z20-019 comp amending comprehensive plan map TR-5 proposed bike network map in various locations and amending the text of Appendix D to the comprehensive plan to update terminology relating to protected bike lanes and to update map references. By a vote of 8-0, the Plan Commission recommends approval.
All right, we have no community comment. Any council commentary or questions?
Council President?
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, I'm going to support this. I think there's some really good stuff in it, but my one concern, and I'm going to just really express it, is if in fact this goes down the road or the path of road dieting Boone, I just think that that's going to be a really bad outcome. I mean, even without the sportsplex, that is just a terrible place to be when anything is taking place at the arena. You add in the sportsplex, and it's just going to get worse. And we still have a number of folks who are really working hard to try and get a downtown stadium built still on that corner. So I think it's really important that we have a bike lane, that we have that accessibility, and that's why I'm going to support the comp plan change. But I'm just really want to emphasize how important it is that we really do our due diligence in terms of the design there, and that we're not creating havoc for either commuters or those who are attending the events as COVID hopefully very soon goes away. So I'll leave it at that. Again, some really good stuff between Cook and I do like adding the bike lane on Boone. It just should not be a road diet. It should be in addition to the 4 lanes.
Other council members? All right, and again,
I might be too optimistic, but Council President, I was going to propose we take all 3 of these together.
Yeah, that's fine with me. There's no public comment. Do you want to read the other two?
H2H, final reading ordinance C 35979 relating to proposal files Z20-042 comp amending comprehensive plan map TR-12 arterial network map in various locations throughout the city together with corresponding changes to the official arterial street map in Spokane Municipal Code 12.08.040. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommends approval. And H2I, final reading ordinance C 35980 relating to proposal file Z20-045 comp amending the text of Chapter 4 Transportation of the Comprehensive Plan to discuss safety needs for at-grade railroad crossings. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommends approval.
All right. Any other commentary on any three of those? All right. Hearing and seeing none. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate staff handling all three of these and presenting them to us. So thank you so much. With that, we'll do a roll call vote on all three. Councilmember Mumm. That was an aye. You were muted, but so do you want to? That was an aye.
Aye. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Councilmember Stratton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Aye.
Council President's an aye. Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Aye.
All right. The ayes have it on all three, G, H, and I, 7-0. And we have no further business tonight. Thanks, everyone, for all the hard work. And again, special thanks to planning staff for shepherding that through the year. We've got the new crop coming up in the docketing, and look forward to seeing what people are proposing this year.
Council President?
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Did we get the first reading ordinance for the bid assessment, or is that next week?
No, we did. Oh, did you read that?
That's next week.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, it's next week.
Okay.
You are correct.
All right. Thank you.
That's good. You can never be too careful. All right. Thanks, everyone. No study session. Happy holidays, safely, I hope. And we'll see you all next Monday. We're adjourned.